Hi, I'm Kim, and you're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Though I have been very quiet on YouTube, really focusing on my recovery, my healing, and looking internally at what it is exactly I wanted for my life. I guess I felt like most of my life, I was catering to other people, on the money treadmill, running like everybody else, getting the bills paid, etc. And I had reached a point after I left the narcissist where I thought, so much of my life has been spent doing things that maybe I didn't really want to do, or maybe I did out of duty or loyalty, but they weren't things I had necessarily chosen for myself. So a combination of things were happening in my life. I had really woken up to the abusive situation I had been living in. I had really woken up to what narcissism and the cluster B conditions can do to a person's life and what had happened to my life. I was also getting to an age where I thought, if not now, when? And I think you can make that decision at any age. I mean, a 20-year-old can decide, if not now, when. You certainly don't have to wait till you're older to do that. So there was a series of things going on in my life, and I had become really willing to look at those things and examine those things and set a path for myself. Now, of course, nothing happens overnight. Everything in life worth having, you're going to work for it. And step by step, I have achieved many of the things that I really wanted. And I want to talk about that today. First and foremost, I wanted to get away from the narcissist, and I did as a result of a well-planned exit strategy. Not only did I move out from under his evil clutches, I left the province and went to another province in quite a remote town where I'd owned an old heritage home. We fired up the house again, and I lived there for a while, intending to use that time to heal. Now, like so many others, I was absolutely wallowing, all consumed by really negative thoughts, programming from the time spent with the narcissist, still living on eggshells in my own home, miles and miles from the narcissist, not even in the same province, but still out of habit, living on eggshells, feeling tremendously defeated, living in a constant state of questioning myself, feeling humiliated, feeling degraded, feeling tremendously undervalued and broken. Absolutely. Constantly with the narrative playing on what was wrong with me, why wasn't I good enough, couldn't I have done something better, and that continued on for some time. Now, at that point, living in a remote community in southern Saskatchewan, down on the Montana border, I think next stop, Scobie, Montana, so I was in quite a remote area, and yes, that was great. That gave me a really great chance to get my footing back and to give that narrative time to slow down. Now, I gave it a good half a year, and at that point I realized this is a call to action. I cannot continue to sit in this. I cannot continue to live in isolation, because I was now doing to myself what the narcissist had been doing to me. I was still feeling bad. I was living in isolation. I wasn't meeting my full potential. And yes, though there was a great improvement from being with the narcissist, it wasn't where I wanted to be. And I knew that I had to do something. Recovery from narcissistic abuse, in my opinion, really does require a call to action. Now, as many of you know, I heard a very loud and very big call to action, and I followed that path. I set a pretty big path for myself, pretty loud call to action. And many times I had lived in Mexico. My sons are born here in Mexico, and I used to go back and forth. And I had the house in Saskatchewan to go back to, so that was kind of a bit of a Canadian safety net for me. So what I decided to do at that point was sell my house, sell everything I own, and completely give up my life in Canada and move to Mexico. Now, I had some plans and I had some ideas about what I wanted to do when I got here. But again, I was still hauling a bit of baggage. And in those days, I was still doing videos very regularly from Mexico. But as you guys know, I've had a tremendous amount of stalking, tremendous amount of abuse, and I know I'm not the only one within our community, but unfortunately, many, and I mean many, of the narcissistic abuse, air quotes, recovery channels are in fact narcissistic people. Truly sick and diabolical narcissistic people who have constantly caused this infighting within our community. And my plans were to live a very creative life, and I was just finding the abuse and the smear campaigns and all the nonsensical crap to just, be getting in the way of my creative groove, and I wanted that to stop. So I did step away from YouTube because I really wanted to move forward with my life, minus all the BS that comes with narcissists stalking you and smear campaigning you. Now, there's some great irony in what I'm about to say next, and some humor, of course, because while I was moving on with my life, these injured narcissists, and once you injure a narcissist, man, that death fight is on. Here I am, living in the tropics, living my best life, day by day, making strides to achieve the goals I wanted to achieve, meeting new people, doing new things, having a wonderful time. And these maniacs, these twisted psychos, are, held up in their apartment just plotting against me like, it was crazy. It's really crazy, and it's never stopped. So, I'm kind of to the point now where, I just laugh at it. They're all the same crap coming out of their mouths over and over again. And I just really don't have the time or the energy for it. I don't watch smear videos. I don't care. I'm to a point where I live in my own independent reality where I really want to do some things, and I can't let narcissists get in my way. I've had one narcissist after the other try and infiltrate my life, as I know many of you have, and this is just part of what comes with, being an empath, being an independent thinker, and being a truly free individual living your best life. That's all. When you do that, it creates envy and it creates jealousy and attracts soul vampires. So I've just completely accepted the fact that there's probably no way to avoid them. I'm really to the point where I realize I've got some wonderful people in my life. So if somebody new comes into my life, I'll give them a shot. I'll entertain the possibility of a new friendship, but the second I see any of it. And in the next video, I really want to talk about what the signs are, because these creatures are out in full force. The last 3 years of the scamdemic has absolutely brought these creeps out from under every rock. I do believe the isolation probably caused a tremendous deficit for them as far as getting supply goes. So they seem to be all fired up right now. So, I had to just accept the fact that people like me attract creatures like them. That's it. That's all. Over the last years that I've been in Mexico, I had some pretty big dreams, and I have been able to fulfill all of those after years and years of owning and operating with a wonderful partner and a very close friend of mine. Certainly one of the best shops Puerto Vallarta has ever seen. It was a very large artist co-op. We started out with about 45 members, and man, oh man, it went gangbusters. It was a great shop. It took a tremendous amount of work, but everything was well worth it. And then, of course, the scamdemic started, and being, a resident of a tourist town with no other industry, Vallarta took a beating as far as international tourism goes. Mexico took the path of Sweden, where we didn't really play along with the scamdemic, but other countries were locked down, so we weren't getting international tourists, though nothing changed at our airports. If a flight wanted to come in, it could come in, but nobody could get out. So what ended up happening here to keep Vallarta alive. Literally, we have no other industry. Tourism is it, and typically we get between 6, I think, and 8 million tourists a year. So that's, a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of action. So when everything shut down internationally, the Mexican government stepped up and they offset the costs of national flights to Vallarta and hotels. So we had tons of national tourists. They were coming from Mexico City, Guadalajara, Morelos, Aguascalientes. They were coming from all over the place, from Guanajuato, and the flights were coming constantly. We were still getting about 50 flights a day, all nationals. Now, owning an artist co-op, especially when so much of the work was Mexico influenced, that kind of stuff is very attractive to foreigners. Not so attractive to nationals, but the national tourists did help to keep the shop open. We have a tremendously large number of expats living here, and though many people were afraid to leave their house, we just switched it up and we started making deliveries to people's homes and selling things online and dealing with people more, on the computer versus one-on-one in person, and that all worked great, and that kind of pulled us through. But it was a tremendous amount of work, so now everything's calmed down. The floodgates have opened up. Vallarta is full of people now, and I was tired. I was just tired. And, I think that struggle of getting through those years had just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't feel the same about the shop. I didn't feel the same about dealing with the general public, which I used to love to do. There has been a change in people. Not all people. Certainly not any of my true friends, but in the general public at large, there has been a shift, and it's one that I wasn't really feeling great about. So I decided I'm going to go backwards instead of forward, because as you know, I'm a jewelry designer, clothing designer. I design a line of housewares, and I decided that I right now feel that I'm a better asset to retailers not being one. I created tremendous, huge competition for other retailers in my area. And I thought if I closed my store and wholesaled my jewelry and my clothing to them, that I would strengthen their business, I would eliminate me as competition, and I could work from home, which is ultimately what I wanted to do. And then I had to decide, where do I want my home to be? If you've been to Vallarta lately, you know Vallarta is not a little beach town anymore. That's a big metropolitan city. Many areas of Vallarta look like Miami Beach, Florida. It's changed so much. So many people have moved here, and it's a very bustling community, and it's fabulous, but it's not where I wanted to live. So I set out to find a house in a remote village on the beach. And I have been able to do that. It took a while, I'll tell you, almost a year of searching daily, but I did find the ideal beach house. I tried to flip the camera around, but it's so bright out there that when I flip it around, the screen just goes white. But I have a large home right on the ocean, and from the perimeter of my house back, we're in the jungle. So it's the ideal location for me. There are no roads into my community. You have to come by sea taxi, and as far as transportation goes, I'd rather ride the sea taxi home than drive on the highway. So that all worked out great, and I get to sit here and I get to design jewelry and I get to live my best life. And a couple of times a month, I'm going to go into Vallarta, check on the shops I'm dealing with. Not all of them are in Vallarta. Some are in other cities around Mexico. And that number of retailers that I'm dealing with is growing quite steadily. And it's exactly what I wanted. That's what I wanted from the beginning. It just took a while to get here. And I guess the point of the story is, you all have a dream. You've all been brutalized, but under all that broken, horrible, messed up life, the financial problems you're in, the state of confusion, the heartache, the sense that you've lost your true love, all of that will dissipate when you actively take steps to repair the damage that's been caused. Though there can be a very awkward sort of comfort in wallowing in your misery, because of course if you've been with a narcissist for any period of time, particularly for those of you who have been with a narcissist for a long period of time, I know that the theory is recovery will be slow, but that's not necessarily true. It's going to come down to what you want to do. And I know that selling everything you own, throwing a backpack on, and heading to Mexico isn't for everybody. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, what about my kids? Well, my 5 sons, 3 of them live here full-time now. We've got 2 to go. I've got 1 that is making plans now to get here, so I'll be down to 1. And hopefully they'll all end up here. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to tell you, when you live in Vallarta, they come to you, and you get to spend some real quality time with your family, you know, in the sunshine, on the beach, watching your grandchildren running around in an environment that is absolutely wonderful. You get to spend your time barefooted and earthing and connecting with nature again. And people are attracted to that. So if you're worried about moving somewhere, and it may be, you know, somewhere else in your home country, it may be Costa Rica, it could be any number of places. But if you have a dream, just do it. I mean, that's what I did. I just did it. And if you think that it's going to be difficult, well, it might be. I mean, I've faced all kinds of challenges. There have been all kinds of speed bumps on my path to getting here. But this is where I am now because I just kept going. I just kept going. And though I am still very actively hunted, stalked, and harassed by narcissists, I can really laugh at it now because they are so predictable. They are so attached, deeply rooted in their hive mind collective. They have no possibility of breaking stride. They're all the same. Once you can spot one, you can spot them all, and they're not even trying to hide it, at least not the way they used to. So they tend to expose themselves very quickly. I don't get overly invested in someone until, you know, I've got a pretty good idea of who they really are. And if I discover narcissistic traits in them, goodbye, adios, see you later, you're out of here. That's it, that's all. I have no time for it. And I really hope that if you're feeling stuck, that you can muster up the strength to hear that call to action and start taking the steps necessary to get yourself to a really great place. We don't know how long we have on this planet. We really don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow or another opportunity. And if you're waiting for an opportunity, it may not show up. You've got to create one. Just before I go, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to this wonderful community. So much of my recovery, well, is owed to you guys. Your continued support and how kind you've all been has been a tremendous help for me in my recovery. Now, years ago, we started something called the Kim Wilson TV Meetup here in Vallarta, and victims of narcissistic abuse were coming, and we were spending time together. Ladies were getting together and renting hotels, shared spaces, and we were having dinners out and going to the beach, and everything was great. And of course, that event started to get infiltrated by narcissists. Go figure, right? So now we have been doing the same thing, just on a much more private level, just between private communications. But I would like to up that again a little bit. I do have a big house in the beach. If you think that getting away for a week or 3 days, you know, would be beneficial to you, and you want to spend some time in a very quiet area, this is a very authentic Mexican beach village with no road access, as I mentioned. A lot of people fly into Vallarta and come and rent a room with me here for 2 or 3 days during their vacation time in Vallarta. And some people have flown in and stayed here specifically. I just had a lovely friend here for a few days, and now she's gone. So that is a possibility, but I would suggest that you email me privately and I could let you know about that. So I just want to throw that out there. If you think taking a real break in a real authentic Mexican beach village would help you to heal, get your footing, clear your head a little, let me know. My email address is kimwilsontv. It should be in the description below, and I think it's in the intro. Anyways, guys, I love you lots, and I hope you're having a great narc-free day.